I stopped collecting Pokemon cards 1 year ago today, and that's because I found something better. But first, welcome back everybody, I'm the Rich Nobody, and I hope y'all are having a blessed day today. Now, you're probably thinking, I haven't seen this guy on YouTube in a year. What is going on with this guy? He's back. And judging by the shift in the background, you'll notice that I'm not in the room that I was in previously. And that's because, of course, I moved, but that wasn't the reason that I wasn't making a whole lot of videos. I was actually not making videos mainly because I was procrastinating, but also because making Pokemon content was just really hard to do when I wasn't actively collecting Pokemon anymore. Now, I did say that I quit collecting Pokemon cards because I found something better, but that wasn't necessarily by choice, and I'm going to explain that in this video along with some other things. So, of course, Pokemon has been in a crazy bubble of just popularity and everything just rising in prices and people getting violent and product not being found anywhere. When this originally was going down, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a few months and we're probably gonna see everything dip back down in price to, the normal range within a couple of months. And I wasn't too worried about it. But clearly me and everyone else who thought of that was very wrong. So of course the prices kept rising month after month and it just did not look like it was slowing down anytime soon. And now we're here a year later and that's basically the same thing that's going on now. The prices are still rising to this day. It's insane. And since I wasn't rich or had a business or anything like that, it was really hard to come across any sealed Pokemon product for a decent price. And that kind of led me to start looking into other areas of collecting because I didn't want to throw my money away just to get the same product that I could have gotten a year ago for half the price. So a year ago on this day, I put a stopper in my Pokemon collecting and I was trying to figure out what to do with myself now that I wasn't spending money collecting Pokemon cards. So naturally, I started looking on YouTube and all of the other collecting spaces to see what I could actually put my time and effort into. And while I didn't exactly find a set path in that search, I did find a couple of things that I started dabbling in. Now, this may sound weird for a 22-year-old, at the time 21-year-old, but I actually got into a little bit of an era where I was going to antique shops and looking for these niche little collectibles that nobody really knew about. And I think honestly what drove me into doing that was just I was in a very lost space because I've been collecting Pokemon cards for almost 9 years at this point. So having to put that away and try and do something else, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was just trying to fill the time. Thankfully, that was short-lived because very soon after, I found a brand new hobby that I was getting myself into by complete accident. So it was a Saturday morning and the family and I decided that we were going to go on a Goodwill run because if you truly know Goodwill, you know that there can be some heat there. Now, realistically, I was going there not with the intention to really find anything that I could flip or sell or anything like that. I was kind of just looking for any cool thing that I could add to my wardrobe or something like that because you know that there's some good clothing at Goodwill sometimes. But what I ended up finding on this Goodwill trip changed the trajectory of my collecting as a whole. So let me paint the scene for you. I was walking down one of the aisles just checking out the clothes, just minding my own business, when suddenly I look up at the shelf on top of the clothes and I see these two very long white boxes. And I looked at it and I was like, these are weird. Let's open them up and let's see what's inside. Before I opened them up though, I did notice that on the corner of each box there were some letters labeled on them. One of them was BB and the other one was FB. Now my immediate thought was, am I about to see some sports cards or something? And to my surprise, I was right. These boxes were entirely full of baseball and football cards. Now, prior to this point, I have never collected sports cards in my life, but being the Pokemon card collector that I was, I knew that there was at least some value to have in these sports cards. So I told myself, you know what? I honestly can't really afford these, but I'm going to pick these up anyway because you never know what could be inside of these. And I'm not going to sort through them in the middle of the store. I'm just going to pick them up and we're going to take them home. And so $60 later in a car ride home, I get back home and it's time to look through these boxes. Now, unfortunately, out of these boxes, there wasn't really anything crazy going on in there, but in the football box, I did happen to find this one Aaron Rodgers card. And if I can find a picture of it, I'll put it up on screen. But I ended up selling that card for a whopping $10. And out of $60 for both of the boxes, I thought that $10 for one card was pretty darn good. So it made me start digging deeper into the different kinds of cards that I was finding in these boxes, because I saw all of these shiny cards and I saw all these like rainbow looking cards and different colors and all this stuff, and it was really confusing at first, but I was determined to find out what the value of these cards actually were and what I was actually looking at. And going down this rabbit hole reopened my eyes into what collecting this kind of stuff really means. Because honestly, as I was looking through forums and looking on like the price charting website that you use to for sports cards, it made me feel like a kid again. Feeling that mystery and joy of not exactly knowing what you're looking at, but having that hope inside that it could be worth something. It was a feeling that I honestly cannot describe to you, because you really got to just experience it for yourself for the first time. And even though I wasn't finding any like grails in these boxes, I was feeling pretty excited on what the future could hold if I just happened to dabble in sports cards for a little bit. But little did I know how insane this rabbit hole was actually going to get. So in my spare time at work, I started watching YouTube videos on people opening up sports cards boxes, specifically baseball, because that's the sport that I know the most. This started an insane rabbit hole on looking into what I actually had in these sports cards, but honestly, it also made me want to start opening some boxes of sports cards as well, because I happened to notice that sports card boxes are a lot cheaper than Pokemon boxes. And after watching YouTube videos of people pulling some really insane cards out of some ordinary boxes you can find at Walmart, I really wanted to try this out for myself. And so I did here and there. I bought a couple blaster boxes here and there. If you don't know what blaster boxes are because, you know, you're a Pokemon guy and you're watching a Pokemon guy talk about sports cards, don't worry. You don't need to know about that. It's not that important. All I'm trying to say is I was buying a couple boxes here and there and I wasn't, pulling anything crazy, but after every box, I was learning more and more about what this hobby was all about. Now, of course, I remembered from the Pokemon collecting space that opening boxes isn't necessarily the best way to get all the good cards. It's mainly whenever you buy singles and collections and stuff like that. So I then began starting to look on Facebook Marketplace to see if anybody in the area was selling their sports card collections, specifically baseball again. Buying these collections weren't necessarily the best financial option because I didn't really look into them all that much, but it helped me learn a valuable lesson about being cautious on what you're actually purchasing. Because whenever you're buying stuff in bulk, you really can't sift through cards through an image, so you have to really understand what you're looking at before you purchase. The important thing is I was buying these collections on Facebook Marketplace and I started to build up some sort of an inventory of having all of these sports cards. And coincidentally, a few weeks later, I ended up getting a call that I was not expecting whatsoever. So on a random afternoon after work, my friend texted me and said, "Hey, did you check your Instagram DMs lately?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "You should check them out really quick." So I did, and I saw a DM from a company called Whatnot. And that rang a bell for me. Now, when I was hot in my Pokemon collecting, I remember watching YouTube videos of people opening up Pokemon cards, and every once in a while, there would be an ad that would pop up for Whatnot, which is a live selling platform for basically all kinds of collectibles, but mainly Pokemon cards. And now I'm sitting there with Whatnot having a DM on my Instagram, and I was like, okay, let's play Whatnot. Let's see what you got. And so I read it, and they actually said that they were interested in trying to get me to make a Whatnot account so that I could start selling on their platform. I guess my platform on Instagram was good enough to where they thought that I would have been a good potential seller, so they shot me a DM. And I decided to mess around with it. I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to take their offer, so I just started talking with them, just making sure, I got all the details right. And near the end of the conversation, when we actually were setting up a phone call to talk a little more in depth about what was going to happen, I was still on edge about doing this whole thing because I have never done it before and it just seemed like a lot of work that I would have had to put in. But I was optimistic. Anyway, the phone call comes around and it was a pretty good phone call. Guy was really nice and he was basically, super helpful, telling me what was going on with Whatnot and how the whole thing worked. And he actually convinced me to set up a Whatnot account and get my first live stream scheduled. But on that phone call, he asked me a very important question that changed the trajectory of my collecting as a whole. So originally, Whatnot hit me up because they thought that I would be good at selling Pokemon cards on Whatnot, but I had just stopped collecting Pokemon cards, so what exactly was I gonna do? Well, I was just starting to collect a bunch of baseball cards, so I told him, what if I did baseball cards instead on Whatnot? And he basically said, baseball cards are out of my forte, but if you know what you're doing, I gave you the basics on how to sell on Whatnot. So if you want to take that route, by all means, you can go ahead and do that. So at that point, I made the decision, you know what? I'm going to go all in on these baseball cards because it's pretty cheap to get a bunch of them and they can sell pretty well on Whatnot. And with that decision, a new era of my collecting just went off the rails in a good way. I started doing weekly shows selling a bunch of baseball cards, and I say a bunch, but it really wasn't that much. They just, sold for a decent amount, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so that's basically where I'm at now is I'm, starting to do Whatnot shows. I haven't done them in a couple of months, but I'm starting to pick them back up, which is why I wanted to make this video because now if I can start making videos regularly, I can advertise them here. So if you want to go follow me on Whatnot, it's the Rich Nobody at the Rich Nobody, however they do their handles over there. I'll leave a link down in the description if you want to go and check it out. I'll probably be doing shows every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If that changes, of course, I'll let y'all know in a future video, but that seems to be the plan for now. I don't know what time yet. Still figuring that out. And my first show is in a couple of days, so we'll see how that goes. As for this channel, I still think I'm going to do some Pokemon content because I'm still heavily involved in in the news, I guess I would say, but baseball cards has been my collecting, so I might do some baseball card content. I might talk about, the investing side of things over there because I know we kind of dipped our toes in the Pokemon side of things, but honestly, it's kind of just a free for all right now. Whatever I feel like doing, we'll just see how it goes. If you enjoy both those hobbies, Pokemon and sports cards, let me know down in the comments. If you only care about Pokemon, let me know that as well. Because if y'all don't care about any baseball cards, I'm not going to force that down your throat. I'll continue to just make Pokemon card content. So we'll just see what y'all think in the comments. Seriously, let me know down in there. You're probably not very many people are probably watching to the end of this because I'm not going to put a whole lot of effort into this video, so the retention's probably going to suck. But if you're loyal and you're still here, I appreciate you. Just let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Leave a like, drop a subscribe if you're new. We'll catch y'all in the next one.